Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we are looking at some orchid fails, some orchids that don't look so good. Let's gather some courage by looking at this pretty red Vanda. Oh my goodness, it's the first red Vanda. Yeah, never mind. We are actually going to look at some pretty bad looking orchids, some of the projects that sadly were failures. Try to learn something from it because that's the whole point of these videos, and also give you an update so you know how some stuff ended up in the end. But I will preface this by reminding you that not all orchids will make it. They are live things. We cannot fully control them, if at all. Maybe we just have the impression that we're controlling them. And sometimes it really is out of our powers. And even if it is within our power and we mess up, again, that's fine. We're humans, we are allowed to make mistakes. I give you the right to make mistakes. I just want to say that because, well, we talked about this before. There are certain communities, let's put it like that really persecute their members if anything bad ever happens to their orchid. Hey, it happens, okay? Yeah, I spilled a little water in the crown of that orchid. What to do? Do you think I feel good about it? I don't, but it happens. So, with that said, let's just learn about what maybe we shouldn't do with orchids through the fails that I'm going to show you today. And hey, if you find something useful in this video, I'm not going to say if you're going to enjoy it, but if you find anything useful, give it a like, and why not subscribe? I post 3 times a week. Let's start with the Vanda. Oh boy. Yeah, starting out strong. This is Vanda Mimi Palmer. It's the Vanda we tried to save in November. Remember when we did the charity event? Yeah, it was linked to saving this Vanda. Well, I'm sad to say that my attempt actually failed. What has gone wrong? I do believe this orchid actually had a stem issue because ever since I received it, it just withered off slowly and surely, losing more and more leaves. I did check the stem. I don't remember if I saw Fusarium. Maybe I didn't. Ever since I purchased it, it just declined. It didn't ever perform okay. So I'm pretty sure that with this one, there was an underlying issue there that either I didn't spot, either there was really nothing to do about. And you guys know how I feel about stem rot. If it's at a very inconvenient place in the stem, I don't think there's anything you can do because the orchid cannot start to produce roots way up here where the tissue is not even formed for the production of roots. If it was a very tall Vanda and we had stem rot here, sure, cut the stem rot part, goodbye, we saved the orchid. But if the orchid is not tall enough, and this applies to Phalaenopsis as well, stem rot, I'm afraid, is just not going to be fixable. It's always worth trying, don't get me wrong, this is what we did here. I thought it was a root issue, but then again, the reason why the roots stopped forming was because the stem was absolutely affected in that area. It was pretty much gone, rotted, and in the end, it reached the top. You can see, yeah, it reached the crown. So it started from way below, and I didn't really catch it because it was slightly elusive. But I do believe the orchid arrived with it. So in this case, not necessarily me messing up, but don't worry, I have mess ups throughout this video. But as you know, sometimes orchids arrive with underlying conditions that you really don't spot right away. And with Vandas, because they have long stems, stem rot tends to take a lot of time. So what can we do in this situation? I told you, we're starting strong. I don't think you can fix stem rot if it's at a location which compromises the entire stem, but I do believe we can prevent it. I just did a video on it and how to prevent rotting in general. I'll link it to it down below. It's a bushy video, but to make a resume only on the stem rot, avoid water in between the leaves, in the crown. In this case, it was something at the bottom of the stem. Typically, Vandas are pretty good about stem rot. Even if you leave a little bit of water, it's not a whole lot of water. Typically, it evaporates, but sometimes it doesn't. And in the nurseries, typically they water them from above. So if they water them frequently enough, they just don't dry out, and if they accumulate pathogens, they're gonna have issues. Maybe it was because it was winter, maybe the fans weren't working in the greenhouse or the nursery, you never know. There could be a million reasons for the issue. Anyway, bottom line, we couldn't save the Mimi Palmer. She's still on my wish list. It's one of my most coveted Vanda at this point, and I have such bad luck with it. First it was a Fusarium affected one, then the stem rot one. I'm gonna keep trying though. But with that said, Sally, I couldn't save it, and yeah, it's time to move on. Next up, I actually don't have it anymore, but it's the Phalaenopsis that I showcased in my repotting video, the recent one. It was a Phalaenopsis that had crown rot and stem rot, so 2 in 1. And how did that happen? That happened in my care. That wasn't a Phalaenopsis that I purchased for that specific topic. It happened in my care here in the wire shelf, and I'll show you how. So my little Phalies are down here because this is the coolest place that I have for them, and I have issues providing that temperature drop in autumn. This year it was impossible, so I put them close to the floor just to initiate those flower spikes faster, and well, there's a downside to doing that. On top of them, I have other types of orchids. I just happen to have some Vandas on top of these orchids. And another drawback is the fact that I have a wire shelf. Look what happens with the wire shelf. Things just go through. Yeah, I know it's obvious, but humor is my way of coping with stuff. So when I watered the Vandas on the top, there is a very high chance some water trickled downwards. But oh my gosh, Danny, aren't you careful? Can't you be careful? Oh yes, I am careful. But when it comes to Vandas, let me show you something. Vandas, or at least some Vandas, have this beautiful palm tree shape to them. Even though I do my very best to place the water on top of the medium, not on top of the orchid, I never water from the top. Sometimes it just so happens that a few drops, a bit of a trickle of water from here just lands, not here, but kind of like here, on this type of a leaf. I think I still have some water here. So look what happens when a bit of water, that was a lot of water, trickles on the leaf. Not in the crown, not on the stem, just on the leaf. It goes down. Where does it go down? Through the wire shelf, down on my Phalaenopsis orchids, in their crowns, in their leaf joints. And I do believe this is how I managed to crown rot that Phalaenopsis, by a little bit of water trickling down a Vanda leaf, pointing downwards, and creating disaster. Should have checked the water can. So one of the things that I did was move some of my orchids, especially the mini Phalaenopsis, to this shelf, which is the glass Vitjo shelf. I really like this shelf. In this way, even if I trickle down water from above, it's just not going to go down to the orchids. And I put these guys here because they fit. The other Phalaenopsis, they're a little bit taller. Their flower spikes are taller, so that's why they're still there. But don't worry about it. I actually got myself another shelf. I got a Vitjo shelf, but it's the big one. I would definitely change this entire shelf. There are things that I hate about this shelf. Yeah, it's adjustable. Yeah, it's functional, but depending on the pot, things are just not stable. Also, water trickles down. I would much rather have it on the shelf and just wipe it with a clean cloth or something. Also, it's a little bit awkward how I fixed the light here, and yeah, I really don't want water on the light fixture either, so that's a bit of a hazard. Some orchids just don't fit. As you can see, I put this one here because the flowers are starting to arrange themselves weirdly, so I want them to face the light in that way. And above all, do you see that white stuff on my orchids? That's bird feathers and dandruff. They're losing their feathers now, and that's not fun. So I have a solution for that as well, but there we go. All of these inconveniences combined and a bit of lack of attention from my part led to crown rotting one of my Phalaenopsis. So do be careful where you place Phalaenopsis. If you think you're not gonna have issues, maybe rethink that. You're not gonna do things intentionally, obviously, but it takes one drop to create issues, trust me on that one, particularly in winter time, and it's winter now. So bottom line, wire shelves are great, but they have this inconvenience that water can just trickle down to the plants below them. And if the stars aligned, if the season is cool, if you don't have your fans working and things of the sorts, it can lead to issues. So yeah, definitely going to change that shelf. I'm going to be donating this shelf to my boyfriend. He needs a place to put his stuff anyway, so I will be sure to make a video on that, how I assemble everything. It's gonna be fun. I just need the lights to arrive as well. It's just gonna take a while. But yeah, that's the story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I crown rotted my orchid. Next up, we have a Phragmipedium fail. It's not a complete fail. I didn't rot the orchid, which is great. What somehow I managed to do is just lose the flower spike. Do you remember that video in which I noticed it? Well, ever since then, it kind of deteriorated. I don't know what happened. I really don't. Maybe it was a little water, but if it was water, it should have been crown rot, right? I don't see any evidence of that. I'm not sure what happened. It's not the first time the orchid blooms, so it's not a first bloom. Something happened. I just don't know what. I do see that this particular growth has a new tiny growth at the base here, so it is preparing to just grow on like nothing happened. And also this side, I think I detect a little flower spike forming, so hopefully this one will bloom. But this, I have no idea how and why this happened, which is kind of frustrating because I don't know what to avoid or what to change in the future. Nothing actually changed in my grow room. Temperatures weren't very cold. It was pretty nice outside in the past weeks, but yeah, the spike just decided not to stick around, and I don't know why. It's a fail nonetheless. I'm not going to show you Phragmipedium rebloom. It would have been my first. It would have been nice. Why you do this to me? I'm hoping this one will be okay, but if something happens to this one as well, maybe it's not a fluke. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I need to check it out. I don't know. I'm gonna figure it out. But for now, I don't know what caused this. It doesn't even have pist. It looks very, very nice. I don't know. It happened, but it's a fail. I'm not gonna have a flower. Next up, sadly, the variegated Katrin Zoch. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's not doing okay. You can see how wobbly it is. It has some roots in the pot. It should not have looked this way with the amount of roots it has, which, you know, it's not overwhelming, but it's enough roots. I have seen Oncidiums do much better with less roots. What are you guys doing? The birds are doing stuff. Now, it did bloom, but it wasn't a very good show. The blooms did not last. It was pretty poor, and you can see the growths do not look good. It is also a magnet for all sorts of pests. My proper Katrin Zoch, which is not variegated, absolutely looks like a different type of orchid. It is not prone to pests. It grows. It kind of took over the pot. It's absolutely fantastic. This is a pretty vigorous hybrid as it is, but this variegated one, I don't know. I think there's something wrong with it. I even have a dead growth here in the back. So I'm gonna give this one another go. I'm gonna remove it from this medium. I'm gonna put it in full sphagnum moss, self-watering pot, just like the lava burst. I'm not sure if that's gonna do anything, but considering the degree of dehydration, hoping it's not Fusarium, but I will give it that treatment, see if it improves. If not, I really don't know what to do with him. Also, I'm gonna move it to a place where it's not so close to the other orchids. So I'm gonna treat it for pests. Then I want to minimize the chance of pests coming back to this orchid because it's just attracting them like nothing else. I'm gonna show you another orchid which does the same thing, for which I do have a solution. I might apply the same solution for this guy as well. I'm gonna tell you about it, but yeah. For now, the Katrin Zoch is not doing okay. It's not vigorous. I hope it's not an underlying issue, but I will give it my very best. I will consider it a fail because in the last 2 years since I've had it, I did not achieve any success with it. I might end up losing it, it happens, but definitely I will give it another go with a self-watering and sphagnum moss setup. Next up, Lycastes, like in general, all Lycastes, even the Aromatica, which I've had for 5 years. Does this look like something I'm proud of? No. So what's the problem? Well, they're magnets for pests. I treat them, but because they have such sensitive leaves, they are quite sensitive to oils generally, no matter if they're coming from the spray can or I prepare it. Since they don't have a thick cuticle, whatever treatment I do gets absorbed into the leaf like that. So it doesn't last on the leaf to protect it further on for at least a week. So the pests just come right back. They adore the foliage of these orchids, and I just simply cannot stay on top of them. Oh my goodness, like this one is full as I'm showing it to you. What the heck? I just treated this one. I cannot believe it. It drives me insane, I have to say. I hate Lycastes. I don't really hate them, but I hate the maintenance, especially when you don't have time for them. I have a solution or a little trick that I want to do. So I'm going to treat these Lycastes. I'm going to make sure they're pest free, and I will keep them enclosed in a glass shelf. Probably not the Mills bow, it's very expensive. I'm just going to put them in the D12s, which now I have to. I just need to assemble the other one. I did that for another orchid which constantly got affected by pests. I treated it, put it in that cabinet, now she is glowing. So I think I want to separate everything that has these types of leaves, Lycastes, some Collagenes. I do have a few with very finicky leaves. I will put them in a D12 after I treat them. At least I'm going to minimize the pests that come into the greenhouse finding them, because this is not going well. I don't enjoy how these orchids look like. I feel sad for them. I do my best, but it frustrates me as well because I don't achieve any success. So that's my plan for the Lycastes. I'm going to show you the only Lycaste which still looks good. This one is residing on a higher shelf. I'm going to try not to put it too close to the other ones. I do make sure to spray them from time to time. This one has no pests, which is great. And you can see it looks pretty great, this new growth. I also lost the Neomorea Waliki. Do you remember that one? It was a long time ago. It's a beautiful plant, has the very same leaves, lost it to pests. Not pets, pests. I was kind of furious because I really wanted that orchid. Recently purchased it again. It will arrive in a month or something. But especially for that one, I want to create an enclosed space. And for the poor Lycastes that I still have, it's one of the reasons why I don't purchase Lycastes. Why should I bring them here to suffer, you know? I first need to get my game on, because this is seriously frustrating. I have never, well, almost never had the same frustration as with these orchids. It's a fail. What to do? I'm trying another thing. If it doesn't work, I'm seriously not willing to put up with caring for these types of orchids with very, very flimsy leaves, very sensitive, very pest prone. I just can't. Next up, Zygopetalums. Yes, I know I'm showing you a nice, healthy, alive Zygopetalum, but this is not how other Zygopetalums look like. I told you in my previous video that I'm gonna do a little bit of an update on them. Well, the soil thing is working great. Soil is beneath this top layer. If you dig enough, you will see it. I put the top layer just to maintain that perlite from coming to the surface, and the more I dig through it, the more I bring it to the surface. But down there, there's soil, and the orchid is pretty well rooted inside, doing great. So the soil solution for me works out. It has to do with my environment. It's probably not going to work out for everybody, but for me, it actually works out much, much better than the epiphytic mixture that I do. However, what's the problem with the zygos? Well, I only have 3 of my old Zygopetalums because the other 4 or so kind of froze on the terrace. Okay, I was actually rearranging the greenhouse, which I've been doing for the past 6 months. And I put some orchids outside which were cooler growing. We had a pretty mild winter, generally speaking, except for a few nights when things were dramatically cold. Not necessarily freezing, but together with the wind and the rain, it wasn't a good combination. So I actually had the Zygopetalums on the terrace as well, as I was making space in the greenhouse. And I did have them there for about a week. It just didn't occur to me that it's a little bit too cold for them. So what ended up happening, as you would expect, I had a lot of cold damage, not only on the leaves, but also on the pseudobulbs. In the end, all I was left with were a bunch of dried sticks. Some of these guys survived because they were closer to the greenhouse, not at the edge. Some of them were further on at the edge. And with the water, the cold water, you know, there was nothing I could do about them. Oh, hold on. I have another casualty from then. Let's not hide the evidence. There we go. This is the Pabstia jugosa, or whatever's left of it. I'm happy I still got the pseudobulbs, but the new growth, nope, did not make it. I will try to revitalize this orchid. It still has roots, which is great. I need to repot it because, as you can see, all the medium is spilled. There was wind, there was water, there was a lot of things happening with this orchid. I think I can save it though. But yeah, she was together with the Zygopetalums. And yeah, initially I talked about the Zygopetalums in my haul video, but the first time I recorded it, it didn't have any sound, so I thought, what if I make a fails video out of all of this, because I do have other fails to show. So yeah, zygos, success and failure, but as you know, I did manage to purchase myself some more Zygopetalums, which I will take you along for a full repot. And this time I will not put them outside, I promise. I will keep them in the greenhouse no matter what, and I will try to save the Pabstia as well. And lastly, another orchid that I don't have, there was a Polychilos type Phalaenopsis that was just not performing. It had limpy leaves, although it had roots, and also the coloration of the leaves was very, very off. I tried putting it in the Milsbo cabinet under artificial light. I thought maybe the light was the issue, maybe it was a little too strong. Well, in the end, the orchid never recovered. Everything kind of just yellowed and fell off. It wasn't crown rot or stem rot though. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was an underlying issue, maybe Fusarium, who knows. But ever since I purchased that orchid, again, didn't really perform. And just to give you an update on the Milsbo situation, thankfully, the Boni Vasquez is actually looking better. The new leaf has a lot more coloration. I repotted it recently, added slow release fertilizer. I put it under these lights, which are not super bright, but they should be enough for Phalaenopsis, and also the spectrum is better. So I'm hoping with all of these, I will get a proper normal coloration on that orchid because I love it. But just as an update, it didn't work out for the other Polychilos, which I'm missing the name right now, but you'll have it on the screen. That one probably had a different issue. I'm hoping that the Boni Vasquez will be good because it's one of those that I've always wanted to have. I have it in bloom right now. I'm looking at it and I'm afraid that if I stare too much, I'm gonna break it. That's how much I love it. I don't want to lose that one because for me, it's the hardest thing when I lose something and I don't really know why. Yes, I'm fully aware that I cannot control or know everything about an orchid, but it frustrates me so much when I don't know what's going on with the orchid because I cannot learn how to control it, avoid it, make it better. I feel useless. I don't like to feel useless, you know? And sometimes that happens. So these were the fails that I have at the moment. Probably there will be more in the future from time to time. We will probably update this series. And as I was saying, the aim of it is to just learn or to start being aware and more attentive to other stuff. Yeah, I hope you found today's video interesting. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day and as few fails as possible. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye!